All right. Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us, everyone. We have a wonderful guest today. I feel like I say this every time, but we have been getting a string of just excellent people to join in. And today we are joined by Chris Hofstra of Lead Scout. So, Chris, before we dive into everything else, can you give us just a little background on yourself and on Lead Scout?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. This is I was really excited for this one. You guys are shaking up the industry. I mean, you have been since you announced the instant quote. And so, to be a part of this is an honor and a privilege. So, really excited, and just kudos to you guys for the prep, that goes into this. I mean, for those watching, this isn't like something we just like, hey, can you be on tomorrow? And like, I'm here. We've had a few different calls to try to put together some good content, and I know you guys work really hard in addition to your day jobs of helping contractors get signed up with ROOFLE and using it to its full capability. So everything you guys have put in the communication, really appreciate it. It was not lost on me. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that compliment. I know when it comes to the roofing industry, hard workers is definitely something that is the best description for this industry.
Yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So background, I wasn't always a hard worker. No, I think I have been I wasn't the smartest kid, still not, particularly today with the people that I'm in a room with on a regular basis. I'm surrounded by, the Brads of the world. And I can't remember the other gentleman's name on your team, on the technical product team. But, when you're in a room with those guys, like they're the smartest guys in the room. So yeah, I was never the best student, never the smartest kid, struggle to read, still can't spell, hate writing stuff on a whiteboard. I got a whiteboard behind me. I probably would have written something, but I was scared I'd spell it wrong, so I didn't.
Yeah, honestly, emailing with you back and forth has been a huge pain, dude.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
So anyways, hard work is kind of where you make up for it, hustle, being willing to dive into the stands to catch the ball. I always think about that Derek Jeter catch. By the way, Derek Jeter's from Kalamazoo, Michigan. So I'm talking to you guys from Grand Rapids, Michigan, the west side of the state, opposite of Detroit. Most people know Detroit. But just south of us, 30 minutes, is a town called Kalamazoo. And that's where Derek Jeter was born, raised, and played baseball. So I think that's still relevant
to roofing. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Relevant to roofing and roofing technology for sure.
Yeah. Derek Jeter, baseball. No, but he, just hustle, I think, is what kind of I've hung my hat on.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think a lot of contractors, and there's a ton of brilliant minds, I think, if anything, that gets unfortunately missed and not recognized. But you're right, Courtney, it's a lot of just hard work, being willing to show up and continue to show up, has been, kind of how I've gotten to where I am. I mean, I guess a quick background, I've already been talking a little bit on that, would be I wasn't raised in the trades. I actually started out of college in IP telephony. I was selling phone systems. And then after that, I got into the freight business. So I was a freight broker, and then bounced around, got into e-commerce fulfillment. And that was my last stop before Lead Scout. Actually had a business on the West Coast, south of LA, and we were doing e-commerce fulfillment, taking containers, ship product all over the country. And ended up selling that business to my partner, and was kind of looking for the next challenge. And my current partner today, Joe Salowitz, many people see him on social. He's pretty good with putting some content out there. He approached me with this problem and with this solution, and it was Lead Scout. And there's a lot more to that story that we can maybe talk about another time. But that was back in 2019, and here we are, coming up on 5 years. So we're hanging in there, and we're gutting it out.
Congratulations. That's a big deal.
It really is. And honestly, for those that are just getting started, I don't care what you're doing. I mean, you don't really know what you're doing unless you've done it for 3 or 4 years. Like what someone once told me, like they said, you don't know shit until you've been doing it for 3 or 4 years, you know,
Yeah.
and it's
That's
true.
such a good point. Yep.
I mean, so, whether you're, starting your own roofing business, I don't care if you were in roofing before, maybe you're sales and now you decided to start your own business. The reality is that's a new thing, and it's give it time and stick with it. Don't give up. I've wanted to give up so many times, and largely because we've made the wrong turn, right? We picked the wrong path. We picked the wrong route, and we came to a dead end. There's a cliff, and it's like, shit, do we just give up, call for evac, or do we backtrack and find the right path? And we've obviously chose the latter, and we're starting to see the fruit of those decisions to stick with it. So stick with it. We're sticking with it. And here we are today, June 6th, talking about, unleashing the power of Lead Scout and ROOFLE. And I'm excited to cover some stuff.
That's right.
Minutes.
Yeah.
What a nice reminder as we get started to give yourself some grace, right? As you're pushing into something, and it's like it takes that immense effort to get a project off the ground, but giving yourself the grace to make those mistakes in the early years, and knowing that you're gonna make them, right? It's inevitable. You're gonna make those mistakes. There's gonna be stumbling blocks in the way, and if you persevere and give yourself the grace to not tear yourself down when you make those mistakes, you can see your way through and start to see the fruit.
I would say this is like a perfect segue, because really when it comes down to it, it's like the tools that we have at hand. Let's talk about what can we do to, make sure that we're producing in the best, way possible. And I think that's exactly where Lead Scout comes into hand for our contractors, and, especially with ROOFLE, being able to do the instant estimates. So, thank you for your time for jumping on here.
Yeah, of course.
And so as we get started, there is one of your core concepts being mobilization. So typically this is the type of thing that you would get into on a demo with a customer as you're getting into it, but you are willing to get in here and share this with us. So what do you mean by mobilizing your sales team, and how are you applying that concept with your customers?
So glad you asked. So there's a few different concepts that I want to touch on related to that. The first one is many hands make light work, right? That's a pretty staple phrase. It's true though. So when we talk about mobilizing the sales team, we're just saying, like, listen, we've got an organization, big or small, with several hands. What are those hands all doing collectively to help lift and propel, whatever verb you want to use, the company? And oftentimes, particularly in the last 4 to 5 years, I can speak specifically because I've been in the lead generation business the last 5 years, and a rising tide lifts all ships. The leads have been booming. And so what has happened is you haven't really needed all those hands, right? A few of those hands kind of worked, right? Got a website, got some wrap trucks, put some yard signs out, right? And so what we're seeing today is we need more hands to keep this thing going, right? If we want to keep growing the way we've experienced growth, or that we want to have growth, we need more hands. So mobilizing is really just saying, like, all hands on deck, right? We're all in this together, and we're all going to benefit as a result. So that would be the first point. I think the next point is, and equally important, is creating a win-win environment for the company and the salespeople, right? So if we're thinking specifically about sales mobilization in the sales team, that could be one person, could be 50, creating a win-win environment. So who's more valuable, or who has more leverage, a rep that runs company appointments, or a rep that runs company appointments and creates their own appointments? It's a no-brainer, right? I think, Tim Brown did like a funny gag a while ago, and I'm sure Mike weighed in on it. I know he did, about lead babies and things like that. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I did see that. Yeah.
You're not supposed to mention Mike's name. We've managed to keep him off of this webinar. He might show up if you jinx. So
what Mike am I talking about? Maybe I intentionally
there you go.
left off his last name.
Thank you for that. All right.
But no, but I think the idea is like, and I think what was cool about that piece that Tim put together was there was differing opinions and it wasn't all bad.
Right.
Like, great closers, salespeople with a great close rate and depending on how the organization is structured is not a bad thing. But I think you set aside that element of it. The reality is when we're all honest with ourselves, if I'm talking to a salesperson, I want to help them be the most valuable they can be or have the most leverage in that organization. It's their self-sufficiency. The more you're relying on other people, the less valuable you are. So it creates a win-win environment because a company wins when the sales rep is able to produce. So I think just creating that culture where when we help you mobilize, you make yourself more valuable. We're gonna have to pay you more.
Yep.
That's great because that means we're making more. So It's a win-win.
Not leaving money on the table that's untouched that someone else could do,
Totally.
And I think that kind of goes right into the next, discussion point. It was, exploring strategies to maximize the brand visibility. So as the rep is going to an appointment, what are some ways of creating awareness and generating those local leads? And what does that mean to contractors?
Yeah. I think this is where residential service sector business, which is kind of the industry technical term, has an advantage because their people, these people we're talking about, these salespeople that are being mobilized, are standing within a wedge or a driver from the next customer. Mm-hmm. So, unlike other businesses, they don't have that advantage, right? So our best asset are people, right? When we've actually surveyed companies and asked them, about, their confidence in marketing, right? Their confidence in the business. And what we often find is there's lacking confidence in like what that ideal marketing strategy is, whether it be digital or whatever, but there's tremendous amount of confidence in their people and their people's ability to perform and represent their brand. There's a reason why they're on the team.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So what better asset than that, the one you're most confident in, to be an agent of your brand visibility? Who can communicate your brand and your brand promise and your brand value better than your people? Mm-hmm. Billboards are super powerful, right? Radio ads are super powerful. Digital marketing is super powerful. You need all these. I mean, Justice, we were talking about this in one of our prep calls. You had a great analogy about how, we can't we're not just going to abandon these things that we've learned.
Yeah, the rest of the tool. There's still value in all of the regular marketing. It's there for a reason. It's part of the infrastructure for a reason. But I think what you guys are bringing to the table is there's this untapped potential of you already have a resource at your disposal. You can invest in various different ways to grow your network, to grow your brand. And like you're saying, why not invest in the thing you're most confident in, the people that are on your team? If you're going to invest somewhere, obviously you're going to invest in other streams of advertising as well, but that investment into your own team can only bear double fruit, basically.
Yep. And I'll give you an example just because I want to obviously wrap into your question, the answer here. We have seen on an unprecedented basis and level companies that traditionally would never think of prioritizing sales mobilization starting to do that, right? Mm-hmm. There's a company locally here in West Michigan. I mean, I don't know how big they are, but they are a mainstream brand in the home improvement space. And their billboards are everywhere. They are they sponsor the big radio shows, right? You see their ads on TV. They would never mobilize their sales team. And just for those listening, when we talk about mobilize sales team, I mean, just an elephant in the room. It's just like getting out of your truck and saying hi to the neighbor, right? Guess what they did last month? They signed up for Lead Scout, and they're literally developing a canvassing team. And it's not that all those other things that they're doing aren't necessary anymore. They're going to downplay them, right? If anything, they're forced to continue to invest in them. Unfortunately, it's not producing the same, ratio in terms of return. But the mobilization, we got to have more hands rowing. We need more people involved in this. We need more brand visibility in other ways. And one of those ways is our best assets in these neighborhoods, running appointments, visiting job sites. They need to be in front of these people. These are next customers within a 7-iron or a driver, right? And so from a strategy standpoint, this looks like, of course, knocking doors. But for those of you that are like, well, that's just too far from that, Chris. I sell against that actually, right? But that doesn't mean you wrap your truck for a reason. You put yard signs out for a reason. Put a flyer on the door, right? There is nothing that's keeping you from handing out some literature, handing out something that communicates who you are, what you're about, the technology that you offer, the ability to get an instant quote, right?
Yep.
That's within, like I said, feet, right?
Well,
where you are. So from a brand visibility standpoint, it's just adding those additional touch points with the people. And here's the best part. If I told you that, we had 2 salespeople, and one salesperson said, listen, I'm really good at closing appointments, so send me on all your appointments. And the other one said, I think I'm pretty good at closing appointments. But every appointment you send me on, I promise I'll go out and hand out 10, 15 flyers to the neighbors. Like, who would you choose? I would choose the second person every time. Why? Because I'll teach if he or she really isn't the best closer, I'll show them how to close. But they're willing to go do something that I can't teach.
Right.
And the reality is that person, even if I'm like, hey, but you can do that, but a company policy, we don't knock doors. Guess what? They're still going to meet people.
Yep.
Because they put themselves in the way of opportunity versus the first guy in his King Ranch until the house, goes in the house, sneaks out, gets back in the King Ranch and leaves. I'm completely relying on, I hope they saw my truck.
Right.
Even clean.
Well, and that's like the best type of interest you can do in a neighborhood is literally when a job is going, everybody knows, hey, something's happening. They're getting a new roof. What are they getting? How much that curiosity literally it just accelerates. So at that point, it's opportunity just sitting there.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a huge, that opportunity of being there in the moment, having someone on site who's available to kind of be approached is what it comes down to a lot. I used to do residential concrete, and the ability to just be on site. I was a supervisor. I wasn't slinging concrete. Absolutely not. I don't want to do that with my time. But sitting out there, being visible on the site in a company shirt so that the neighbors can walk by and say, hey, you got a second? Hey, can you come look at my driveway? That is a lawn sign is great. A phone number is great. But having an actual person there who is that they don't have to be there the entire time, but maybe the noisy part when it's going to draw attention, having somebody there who can take those questions, who can kind of build on that interest, generate that interest, hand out anything, because somebody walking by might not be asking for their own driveway or roof. They might be there asking for, if a buddy of theirs is looking to get a roof replaced, their cousin might be getting a roof replaced. They've got a rental home that's not in the neighborhood, what have you.
Yep.
All of these opportunities that can be missed by people save phone numbers all the time. People take pictures of business cards all the time, but actually calling them and actually following through on that versus the ability to have a person there, answer a couple of their questions and make a connection with them is really such a game-changing feature.
I know we have limited time. I want to give one, I think examples are really helpful in kind of illustrating these concepts. I was on a walk with my son last week, and I mean, naturally I'm constantly engaging people. I mean, when it comes to home improvement stuff. So this gal was walking out of her house, walking down the driveway, going to get the mail. And I noticed that she had a new roof, because I know that I look at roofs like I'm a roofer. I probably should
out to you. Like it's awesome. You're like, that's a new roof.
Yep.
Oh,
and it helped that they changed the color and everything. But so I said, hey, I'm sorry to bother you. My son's like, Dad, let's go. And I'm like, hey, sorry to bother you. I couldn't help, but your roof looks great. Which, first of all, like, hint for you out knocking doors.
Yeah, said no one ever. Said no one pays attention to a roof. Your roof looks great. Nobody's ever said that, Chris.
That's the cool part, is because she was so flattered. She loved that I said that, because she just spent a bunch of money on it. She's like, I know, right? So glad I got the right color, right? Because that's a big deal. And so kind of, I just wanted to say, like, if you're out in the neighborhood and it looks like a new roof, that doesn't mean you don't stop. Like, just if they're home or if you're talking to them, like, just compliment them on that, right? Who knows if they got a rental property, right? Or who knows what their experience was with the other guy. But my point that I wanted to make here was, and this just blew my mind, but not really, because I'm not surprised. So I asked her about the experience, right? How she found the roofer, blah, 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 got all this intel. And I said, well, did you know that Ginya, 2 doors down, just got a roof last month? And she had no idea, absolutely no idea, that Ginya, 2 doors down, had just gotten a roof. And what you know, it was a different roofer. And I know for a fact, because I know all the roofers around here, I know that guy doesn't go around talking to the neighbors. So I look at that, I'm like, man,
that was a golden opportunity.
Roofing, you missed out, because Nancy needed a roof. And you do the roof in a day, that, like, she didn't, and the yard sign might've been in the yard, but she goes the other way, she drives the other way. And you just didn't give enough visibility, exposure to who you were and what you do and how you can help, and making that connection that Ginya and her husband knew they picked them for a reason.
That's the side of it that I love, is it is the most trusted review, right? Because we're in a world of reviews, right? You go to Amazon and you have to read all the reviews before you buy the product, because you're ordering it online. You don't know what it is, right? You go you're looking for a restaurant, you're immediately reading through the reviews, or at least that's how my generation works. We read reviews for everything. But the very best review comes from a recommendation from somebody that you trust. Your neighbor telling you, oh yeah, it was really easy. It was a great job. They didn't leave a mess anywhere. It was great. I have a new roof. It doesn't leak. Problem solved. That review is worth so much more than anything else that you can put together. You're a person's neighbor telling them it was a good move, I'd use them again, goes further than just about any other piece of marketing that you can provide. And by not giving your customers' neighbors the opportunity to hear that, you're completely selling yourself short.
Yeah, leaving tons of opportunity on the table.
Because it's not this year, it's not today, it's not tomorrow necessarily, but down the road they still have, oh, who was it that did your roof last year? Because we need to go ahead and get one done. And I remember you liked them. I've used that exact phrase, not on roofs, but with friends of mine who tell me about something. You hear about anything, and then down the road, eventually it comes time. I know you recommended something to me. Remind me what it was, because I need to go get it now.
Yep.
And having that resource available to people. But as we jump into, I know we're kind of slowing down and speeding up here and there. So the next thing that I wanted to ask you about, bringing this full circle, is synchronizing Lead Scout strategy with other business systems. So first, I want to approach this in 2 parts. So I want to give our viewers a brief understanding of what exactly Lead Scout does for their sales team, and kind of just a little bit of how it works. We don't need to go deep into the weeds, but I do want to kind of set that groundwork in place of what does Lead Scout as a tool do, and then how do we build it in with the rest of our current business systems.
Yep. So I'll try to keep it super overly simple. It's a door knocking tool. I say door knocking, it doesn't have to be actually door knocking, but when you are in the field scouting, hence the name, we are that top of funnel tool that's collecting all of that information, right? You have to track that. Otherwise, all of that effort and energy that you put into doing that can't really be harnessed or leveraged downstream. It's just, you either got an appointment that day or you didn't, and you don't really know what you did, and you have to track it, right? It'd be like us, I'll give another sports analogy, football game, and we whether we won or lost, we didn't record the game, and so we had no pregame tape the next time we played them. Like, that wouldn't make any sense, right? Like, I feel like I remember they ran this play. Well, no.
Yeah, giving it your best. Yeah.
These guys are spending almost more time on game film and analyzing data than they are actually playing, right, before the game. So that's really what we're in the business of doing, is helping you keep track of all of this activity, right? Who needs a roof? Who doesn't? Who have I talked to? Who I haven't? Why weren't they interested, right? Why did they tell me to come back, or whatever, right? So Lead Scout's really just that tool, that easy to use tool on a mobile device that lets you keep track of it, right?
Okay.
That's really what it is.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get to, kind of set in place as we talk about how are we then going to build it in with others. So it's almost like a mapping. It's a mapping tool to keep your data organized, so you can keep touch points for all of your different neighborhoods that you've set flyers in, neighborhoods that you've done a round of door knocking in or what have you, and then where all of your customers are, so that you have data for direct mailing, so that you have data for, we peppered that neighborhood last week, we don't need to send door knockers out there, we go somewhere else. You can find which neighborhoods are the most profitable and what are actually returning on those efforts to door knock.
Yep.
So
it's not a CRM. It's feeding those business systems downstream. It's top of funnel organization to feed downstream.
And I think and I was going to say there's a visual aspect to it too that I really, really want to hit on too, because as anything, I'm a visual learner. I like to see where I'm going. Tell us a little bit about the insight of that visual capability that Lead Scout has.
Yeah. Well, I think what's crazy is, like, none of the CRMs that I know, I mean, maybe there's a couple I'm leaving out, and I apologize to those guys, but none of them have a map. It's just like glorified spreadsheet. It's just like columns, right? Stages, organizing information in rows. And I mean, imagine going to meet with a customer and saying, like, let me show you in my CRM all the people who've done business in your area. They'd just be like, okay. Scrolling. I mean, maybe they'd be impressed at how fast or how much data you're scrolling through. But now imagine if I could turn my phone around and it's a map of all the customers, right? So that's really the visualization I think you're getting at, Courtney, that we can provide not only in the home, right? Because that's what I just described as an in-home selling tool, and our users use it for that. But also, when I'm out scouting, prospecting, now I can see where my closest customer is, or my last appointment, where my past appointments are that didn't sell. Or just to kind of segue and keep moving in terms of, combining with other business tools, ROOFLE and Lead Scout are really a power couple when it comes to this, because how cool would it be if you could just see where people are requesting quotes?
Yep.
Right. And so if I could see where all my address only quotes are, or where we have gotten, delivered on a full instant quote, that kind of information is massively valuable when you are in the field. So that's where the visualization comes in, for sure.
And I think it's just powerful to be able to see exactly where, with what can you do with the leads that you didn't get a quote to. So, if you have leads that are coming in and they're landing in that address only, A, let's figure out why, but B, they've never actually got a price. So there's still that opportunity right there. And being able to see kind of, maybe there is a storm that came through and you have a ton of those people that never actually got that receipt or received the quote. It just is one of those pieces where it's just a powerful tool for most people.
Well, just to give a quick example for those that don't know a lot about Lead Scout, what Courtney's saying is, obviously you can have that mapped, and we can do like a Zapier integration, And so that information can come from ROOFLE to Lead Scout. So you can see it from a canvassing, sales enablement, mobilization standpoint, like we've been talking about. But another part of Lead Scout, and this will be the only time I mention this because it's not something it's not the main character in the story. But we have a full back-end direct mail automation. So if anybody's familiar with like mailing neighbors around jobs and different things like that, like postcards and whatnot, handwritten notes, we built that infrastructure on the back end of our canvassing app. So what you were saying, Courtney, is when that information is coming into Lead Scout, we could send a handwritten note to them, send them postcards. We can automate all of that. So it just gives you guys another ability to have a touch point, brand visibility to those folks as well.
On a click of a button, which is powerful, to handwrite all of those.
Because we can set up an automation. So you just set up once and it's done.
Exactly. That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, that's the kind of beauty of this partnership, and trying to highlight the points here is that so many contractors of ours do get address only leads where they just don't go all the way through. They see the lead form show up, and maybe it's a circumstance of them not being sure if this is going to be a single point of contact. A lot of times, like, I don't know if you've ever tried to ship a car across the country, but they will always have an instant estimation. You go online and you try to find who's going to ship my car, who do I trust, and you put in your needs into an instant estimation, and it's not an instant estimation. They don't give you a number right away. They don't at all. They send your information out in a million directions, and then I moved my car 4 months ago. I still get phone calls today saying, "Hey, you still trying to ship that pickup truck?" And no, yeah. It's long gone. But that can scare somebody sometimes. They're not 100% sure of what that process is, maybe, and so they don't proceed. But they're still there. They still want a quote. They still want the information. And this is where you can, you have that at your disposal. You can send out a quote to them. You can pull that quote. You can also start to visualize that once you send the information to Lead Scout. You can start to see these areas that I get a bunch of address only leads from a specific zip code, from a specific area, or maybe from somewhere outside of my market area, and it's an opportunity for expansion. But those are kind of blending these two tools together to be able to basically scoop up anyone who fell through the cracks the first time. If anybody doesn't get caught in the net the first time around, you have an opportunity to go back and try and get them again and make sure that they get the quote that they wanted in the first place, and maybe they just didn't follow through with for any reason.
Yep. I think it's important to point out that ROOFLE and Lead Scout are very much top of funnel tools, right? ROOFLE is a lead generation tool. The combination of those, I kind of jokingly say power couple, but like truly the combination of those two together are only enhancing the downstream benefit to you. So in terms of like your other marketing strategies and your other way of acquiring customers, right? So where that demand is coming from within your market, whether it be where your team is being mobilized to scout and find opportunity, or where people are finding you and hitting your website and getting an instant quote, whether they complete it or not. That's helping drive decisions and efficiencies downstream, right? To your CRM and to your other marketing strategy. So yeah, it is exciting to think about the possibilities when combining the two technologies. It's pretty exciting.
Well, and it's especially with ROOFLE door knocking. I had a situation last week. A door knocker approached my door. I actually talked to them about ROOFLE, like, hey, how powerful would it be to build trust right at the door by being able to give them a ballpark? And that door knocker eyes got huge. He's like, I need to know, as far as like, I'm like, what tools do you have that you're using to do your canvassing? I'm like, keep doing it. Obviously it pays off. I tried to give him some positive, reassurance that he's doing the right thing, but he had no tools at his dispense. He wasn't using anything to track where he was going. And so just having those types of conversations, as a someone higher up or a business owner, like being able to provide the tools that are going to help your salespeople or your canvassing team build the trust is only going to benefit you.
Yeah. I can't wait for this has not happened yet, but I can't wait for the day that someone comes to my door and is using Lead Scout and goes, and I have this really cool tool where I can just run a quick quote for you.
Yep.
That would be fun.
It's going to happen eventually. It got your dog
Yeah.
excited. We're all worked up about it. Hey, so we're going to move into a Q&A here in just a minute. But before we do that, I do typically like to end these sessions with a similar set of questions. So we bring in people from all over our industry, and it's a unique opportunity for us to kind of pick at everybody's brains. So the last question that I want to put to you, Chris, before we jump into a Q&A is, what is your take on the current state of the industry? And where do you see it going in the next few years? Are there any trends that are jumping out to you? Are there any opportunities that you think that contractors have to capitalize on? Anything specific about the industry that you want to speak to?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I have a few thoughts. Continued consolidation for sure. Seeing a lot of that. We're starting to do business with them. I don't want to speak specifically on macroeconomic conditions because it's so hard to predict. But I think I'd be stating the obvious if I said the current and near future environment is not as hot as it once was. And many companies are having to rethink expectations of growth and sales, profitability, and also rethink the overhead they created from the last few years. And how do we handle that? And so I think it is unknown, but certainly now and in the near future, companies are having to rethink everything. From a brand penetration standpoint, I see the gap widening between these consolidation companies and the smaller independent company. But this is where we get really excited about Lead Scout and the sales enablement that we're trying to instill and help with. Because I say this to pretty much everybody that we do a demo with, that your greatest advantage, one of your greatest advantages as a small guy over these bigger companies that are consolidating, is your ability to get out of the truck. I mean, the reality is if you think about the widening gap of marketing budgets, right? Because if consolidation is happening, it's because they get better buying power, they can offer better warranties, they have more marketing dollars to spend, right? So if you're not one of those guys getting rolled up, like, wow, like what's going to happen, right? But the hope that you can have, the excitement, the advantage that you can take in that scenario is that all of those companies hopefully are going to do more brand penetrating for my service than what was happening yesterday. And all they're doing is teeing me up. They're telling Nancy she needs a new roof, right? Or she needs a new deck or new siding or new windows. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that to my advantage, and I'm going to be the first one to go to the door, or I'm going to be the first one to leave those impressions and create that brand identity at the door in the neighborhood after I run that appointment, because the chances are those other companies, now like I mentioned before, they're starting to do this. But even if they are, that's okay, right? I mean, it's a numbers game, right? If I hit 100 doors, I might have 5 appointments. So we don't need to get a lot, guys, right? And so the advantage is all of that effort that's happening in many ways is only teeing me up for my success when I'm in that neighborhood. So I have nothing to fear, right? Because they're buying me, and they're buying my trust, and so anyway, so that would be my answer to that question.
I like that approach to what we are seeing in the market. We are seeing a lot of that consolidation, right? We talk to contractors all the time, and we hear on a weekly basis about somebody being absorbed by somebody else or what have you, and it can cause a little bit of concern, right? In that, well, I'm in a relatively small market, and now some of my competition's been absorbed by somebody national, or maybe somebody, multi-state or what have you. And it can be scary that, all right, well, now there's a giant fish in this relatively small pond. But like you said, it's mostly they're going to put a lot of effort into raising awareness for these needs, exteriors needs or what have you. It's just raising awareness in your area because you are still the local expert. You are still kind of the hometown hero, for lack of a better word, is that you have that as your edge. Because the smaller the market, the more the population typically wants somebody local. That's kind of a unique feature to small town America, is that the smaller the town, the more they like the small town, and the more they're looking to protect the small town. So it kind of does work hand in hand, that your strength is now becoming even more of a strength, and really just being amped up by somebody huge and national coming in and making waves that you get to ride.
But make no mistake, it's up to you. I mean, for those of you that are listening, and I would guess it's pretty much everybody is in that small business segment. Make no mistake, you still have to go do that, right? In the example we talked about before with Ginya and Nancy, she still doesn't know about you, right? You still have to bring that local expertise to them. That's more of a decision. That's just going back to Derek Jeter. That's just a decision to jump into the stands, right? You don't have to be the smartest, biggest budget, all that stuff, master elite or not master elite. You just have to be willing to jump into the stands. And
you don't have to be first either. You just have to be the one that builds the trust.
Sometimes it's better to not be first.
Cool. So thank you for that insight. That's a really unique way to look at it, and a more positive spin than I've heard put on it recently. So we're going to open it up to a Q&A. We've got Chris Hofstra of Lead Scout here to answer any kind of questions that you can throw at him. The first one that we have is from Jason Osario. Do you guys provide Lead Scout on ROOFLE? So we do provide, we do have a partnership. We do have an active partnership, and we can build an integration to make sure that your leads are passing from ROOFLE to Lead Scout. It is not built in as a direct integration into our tool yet. It might come down the road, but for the time being, it is through a Zapier connection. It can be built in. And then we're going to redirect after this closes straight to the Lead Scout page. So if you would like to book a demo with Chris or anyone from his team, you will have the opportunity to do that. And then you can learn a little bit more about what that connection looks like. And if anybody's got anything else, throw your questions in now or forever hold your peace. We'll leave it open. As long as anyone's throwing questions in, we'll stick around. If we don't get any, that's perfectly fine as well. And we can wrap up and give everybody a little bit of their day back.
Justice, I'm glad you said yet. That was the operative word to Jason's question. It's not built in yet.
Yep. We got off a meeting, Courtney and I got off a meeting today talking to our engineers about all of the different plans that we have for integration. So we are constantly building, we are constantly adding in new features and attaching new tools.
Thanks, Dee.
It really is. Honestly, from customers who use Lead Scout, I have heard nothing but incredible things. So we couldn't wait to get you on, Chris, to kind of host this and really just accentuate kind of the need, or that, if there is a need in people's businesses, especially, again, having that direct mail and accountability piece. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
How do you compare Spodio from Scott Meyer?
I probably get that question half a dozen times a day, that and Sales Rabbit. So those would be our two major competitors. And the answer is actually pretty easy. And I think will be exactly what you want to hear. It's just easier to use and it's super affordable. So one of the major issues with technology, now in many ways, it's not, this is the cool thing about ROOFLE, because once you set it up, that's the cool part of its technology. It just kind of works for you. Now you still have to drive traffic and everything to your website, but if you're already doing that, like ROOFLE's really maximizing the existing stuff you're already doing, right? So this word adoption is less, it's still there. Don't get me wrong. I know it's still there, but for Lead Scout or tools like Spodio, it's everything. And I think at the heart of that is just ease of use, right? And Lead Scout is no frills. There's just, Spodio is a glorified CRM. And so when you put that in the hands of somebody in the field, they don't need a CRM. They need something simple, something that's adoptable. And in order to get all that information to use downstream, it has to be inputted. And if it's not easy to input, it won't be inputted, and it defeats the whole purpose, right? So ease of use is the biggest thing. And because we don't have all those bells and whistles, because we're not a CRM, the cost is miles apart from those other tools. So we're just $100 a month for our starter scout. There's no contract, and $300 a month for our pro scout. Wow. And that pretty much covers 99% of our companies out there.
That's extremely affordable. I was wondering if you were going to break down your pricing, and I was wondering if affordable means different things to different people. So thank you. Thanks for highlighting that here at the end, because obviously anyone sticking around this long is interested in everything that we can kind of break open here. So thank you for highlighting that. Yeah, $100 a month to get started is ridiculously cheap. What do you do, Chris? Charge more. What are you doing?
Well, we just need more of the market to, be experiencing the benefits of it. And we want to make it more accessible. And over time, we'll most likely add things like, weather maps and, better data in the app. I mean, don't get me wrong, Spodio and SalesRabbit are extremely powerful tools, great tools. They've been around for a decade. But one of the advantages that we're, trying to take advantage of, or I shouldn't say advantages, but one of the things that they do that we're trying to take advantage of is they've been building lots of features. Mm-hmm. And what happens when you have lots and lots and lots of features, right? It becomes more complicated. And so we're trying to toe that line too, because we know people want that weather data in the app, and we know that they want to be able to take pictures. There's a lot of different things that we are, on our product development backlog, just like ROOFLE's, and we're trying to be very careful in how we introduce those, because at the core of what Lead Scout is just the easiest tool to collect what happened at the door, and make that as fast and easy as possible, and as dependable as possible. Because if it's not working, like if I can't get it to work or do whatever, and I hear this from our competitors all the time, and what's the point, right? So, anyways, over time, we'll see, but the idea is pay for what it does, right? And all it's doing is collecting that top of funnel information to be used downstream with your real CRM.
Yeah, it's like an add-on versus having to replace everything that the tech stack they currently have.
Yep.
I love it. We see ourselves here at ROOFLE as a bolt-on tool, is kind of the term that we use to whatever your tech stack currently is. And we like the other tools that work in that way. Not that we dislike anyone who doesn't work that way, but it kind of fits into our ethos about how to do this. Is we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're not trying to make a business completely change their entire strategy. We're a bolt-on tool that you can put into your toolkit.
Yep.
Lead Scout is another bolt-on tool, easy to use, easy to get set up, easy to get started. That's what we're looking at mostly, is not making a giant infrastructure change to the way that you're operating your business, because that's some ridiculous downtime to have to deal with. We like to work on day and week timelines for uptime rather than weeks and months.
Yep. Yes, Scott, unlimited. So it's as many, hopefully you can get to as many. It's been fun watching the last few months. We've hockey sticked, and part of that hockey stick has been user adoption and pins and prospects being created every day. I think when I logged in this morning, it might've been 11 o'clock Eastern time. I want to say we probably had 3,000 pins already. Wow. And that's really encouraging, because that's just people already getting after it. So the more you can do, the more opportunity you're finding, and the more you're going to grow your business. So there's no limit on that.
And then we have multiple locations. Does this separate those out?
So we have a couple options. You don't have to. So we have customers with one account in 6 states and a couple locations in some of those states. It's just how you want to visualize the information and organize the information. If you don't want people in Tennessee, seeing what, people in Virginia are doing, then you would want to have 2 accounts. and we don't charge the full boat on both of those. So it's $75 for each additional location.
Oh, cool. Okay. So you can just kind of add in and build out, or you can just keep a single market that's going to be visualization of everything happening.
Yep. We do though, we do still keep it. So our Pro Scout is 20 users. So Scott, if you said, we got 12 users, we're growing. So obviously you'd be a Pro Scout. Those 20 users would then be applied to both locations. So we could create, 2 different maps, 2 different accounts, right? You would have visibility, or an admin would, to enter and see both those locations. The reps or the users within each one would be limited to each one. But you would just pay the $75 for the second location and still have 20 users, right? You wouldn't get an additional 20 users for the $75. We're not that cheap.
Gotcha.
Sounds like I would recommend just doing a demo. I mean, that's going to be where you're going to be able to see everything hands-on, especially visually. Highly recommend booking a demo and meeting with Chris's team. It's a pretty powerful tool to see in person.
Funny. Yeah. And also just you can actually sign up on the mobile app. So we're iOS and Android. And when you sign up through the app, we can't take your payment information because we don't have in-app purchase yet. That's actually a decision we made because I think Apple makes enough money, and I don't really want to, 15% off every dollar. But eventually we will do that because it's super nice for users. But yeah, you can just create an account, 7-day free trial, no payment commitments. Invite as many people as you want. The whole team can play around with it for 7 days. And I mean, don't take my word for it in terms of, is it easy to use? See for yourself. And
yeah, get in there and mess around.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
That's awesome.
All right. I think we're going to leave it on that note. Chris, thank you so much for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. And thank you so much for all of the insight. Courtney, as always, thank you so much for being here. Everyone, thanks for joining us. We've got a couple more through this summer that we will be producing and promoting, and you guys will get the emails and the invites. Anyone who's registered to this will be able to see it recorded and share it recorded afterwards if they so choose. And you will be redirected over to the Lead Scout website in case you do want to book a demo. Chris, Courtney, y'all got anything that you want to share before we jump off here?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
No, just that the website is the co-marketing landing page for ROOFLE. So you will, if you wanted to sign up today or anytime, you would get the discount, the ROOFLE discount. So you'll notice that when you go to the page.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Be good, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Take care. See ya.
Thanks.